Well, hey everybody, Andy Kvernen here with another Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. You know, when I was early on in my ministry, I was so excited about doing so many things. In fact, I'm still pretty excitable in varying ways, but coming out of college, we'd seen the Lord do awesome things in our college ministry, people coming to Christ, the ministry growing really rapidly, and we just loved, Christy and I loved doing ministry together. It was amazing. Here I could do ministry with the person that I loved, and we just saw God bless us all over the place. And it reminds me sort of early on in the book of Acts, how the church was seeing God work powerfully. Of course, Jesus had ascended into heaven. They'd witnessed the resurrection. And then here these apostles were empowered with the power of the Spirit. They start speaking in tongues and they start gathering together, and the church just begins rapidly growing, person by person, family by family. And pretty soon thousands of people are being added to the numbers of the church. In fact, the church grows so much that by Acts chapter 6, they're starting to have to add staff. They're adding people, and they choose deacons and others to get involved in the ministry of the church. Peter's emboldened. He's preaching these amazing sermons, and you can just imagine people are fired up. But then we hit a sobering reality. And I remember back when I was first in ministry in the church after college, I hit some roadblocks. And it was a sobering time for me. I identify with that here in the book of Acts. I want you to listen to what happens. Now, my experience wasn't exactly what Acts was, as you'll see. But in Acts chapter 6, verse 8, it says, "Now Stephen, a man full of God's grace and power, performed great wonders and signs among the people. Opposition arose, however." Okay, here's Stephen. He's performing great wonders and signs. God is blessing Stephen's ministry. God's blessing the church through Stephen. It's a rush. It's exciting. But, verse 9, opposition arose from members of the synagogue, or the freedmen as it was called, Jews of Cyrene and Alexandria, as well as the provinces of Cilicia and Asia, who began to argue with Stephen. Stephen's doing great ministry. There's no question that God is blessing with him. But then these antagonists come along. They start arguing with him. Hey, are you sure this is of God? Are you sure that what you're doing is really what God would have you do? Can you imagine the deflation that in and of itself would cause? It says, "But they could not stand up against the wisdom the Spirit gave him as he spoke." I love Stephen, because Stephen doesn't back down to the accusations. He doesn't back down to the disappointments. He keeps speaking as the Spirit gives him a voice. And we keep reading. It says then in verse 11, "Then they secretly persuaded some men to say, 'We've heard Stephen speak blasphemous words against Moses and against God.'" Friends, I don't know about you, but when I'm serving the Lord, I think innate within me is this sense of, okay, God, if I'm serving you, you're going to bless me. You're going to make things easy. You're going to do away with my opposition. And of course, God sometimes does that. But sometimes God allows the opposition to build momentum against what we're doing. And of course, the opposition is always, if we're truly following the Lord, the opposition always comes from the evil one, doesn't it? And so here, the opposition starts gathering steam, and they're against what Stephen is doing. And just because Stephen is following the Lord doesn't mean opposition doesn't arise. In fact, precisely the opposite. Perhaps because Stephen is following the Lord, opposition arises. Verse 12, it says, "So they stirred up the people and the elders and the teachers of the law. They seized Stephen and brought him before the Sanhedrin. They produced false witnesses who testified, 'This fellow never stopped speaking against this holy place and against the law, for we've heard him say that this Jesus of Nazareth will destroy this place and change the customs Moses handed down to us.'" They're aggressive. They're hauling him before the magistrates. They're hauling him out in the public square. They're making accusations of him that aren't true, and they're threatening, because we know what they're capable of. I mean, they're the ones that killed Jesus, that crucified Jesus just weeks, maybe a few months earlier. Here Stephen is facing severe opposition in doing what God has called him to do. How does he respond? Verse 15, "All who were sitting in the Sanhedrin looked intently at Stephen, and they saw that his face was like the face of an angel." Stephen doesn't flinch. And we're going to see in the coming days, as we continue to read in the book of Acts, that Stephen's ministry has a profound impact through a sermon that he's going to give, but it has catastrophic results from one perspective, and yet not from God's. God prepares Stephen to do what God has called Stephen to do. And Stephen begins to rise to the occasion, and the text says that his face looked like that of an angel. How many of us would be described that way when we're experiencing opposition? I don't know about you, but for me, at times when I've experienced opposition, my face is prone to crinkle up, maybe prone to scowl, maybe prone to get angry, maybe prone to tear up, thinking, God, how could you let this happen to me? I love that the Spirit of God empowered Stephen to stay resolute, to not flinch, and to say, okay, God, I know that you're with me. You've been with me through the signs and the wonders. You'll be with me through the opposition. I'm going to trust you. And friends, that's exactly what Stephen does. May God give us the strength to trust him no matter what we face today. May we stand resolute in the gospel regardless of what opposition comes. And may God be glorified in it all. God bless you, friends. You can do it. Let's keep dependent on Jesus together today. Have a great day. And Lord willing, we'll see you again soon on the Cornerstone Connection.